Well, gentlemen, here we are. We're on RO number 47 for this year. This is a Dave-made box that was built by 123 back in 1998. It's got a little 5 amp relay in it. We're going to change that. We'll put a brand new 10 amper in there. One of these straight from Japan. That's good. We'll get it out of the bag now. One of these. There's some stuff in here that's a little sus, but it's been working for a lot of years. This is owned by a nice gentleman by the name of JD Smith. Boy, that's just right up there with Brian Smith, you know what I'm saying? I bet he gets a lot of shit when he goes across Canadians and American border. There's a couple things we want to change. It's got a very good capacitor out here, over here. Boy, gone are the days where we got metal clads for our output tunes, you know what I'm saying? Some of the solder work on the positive and negative wires look a little sus. The rubber grommet that goes around the power wires is literally falling off. So we'll replace that. We're gonna upgrade these power wires, see if we can get it to do a little bit more for him. From a safety standpoint, this is one of the things that we have to fix. This is free floating in here. So we'll get that all squared away for him. Some of this stuff is a little bit rusted, but you gotta remember, this thing is almost 30 years old, right? So we can't nitpick it too bad. The fan is in relatively good condition. The hardware is in relatively good condition, taken into account when it was built. This thing is actually in really, really, really good shape for when it was made, right? How old it is. One of the things that we want to do is we'll block off the vents here across the back, so all the air has to go through, so down over the new components, and it has to go through the amp, through the heat sink, and out the back, right? The relay isn't that big of a deal. If everything in the universe is right, the Schwers are right, it's got good power leads, all that kind of thing. The relay has, this small of a relay has a tendency to hold. I mean, I've done quite a few of these with that little 5 amp relay in there, but it works better with a 10. Lasts a little bit longer. So we'll snatch that puppy out of there. But all in all, this thing is in a 7 out of 10 condition. I mean, the labeling on it's still fairly decent. Most of the time that gets wiped off right away. And nope, it looks like the Anderson clips were pounded on with a hammer, so we'll go ahead and we'll backfill those with solder and make the best of the situation that we can for him. But all in all, what he wants me to do is just check it out for him, run it, and do whatever upgrades I want to it. So this is an easy peasy thing. This will just take a few hours for us to get, you know, right. I wouldn't say it's right. Make it better. It'll just take us a little bit of time to make it better. I'm not saying that Danny did anything wrong. This is the way they built back then. We've learned a little bit since then. Everybody has. Everybody has. And there's quite a few more people in the build business now. So, let's see. It's got 8 super deluxe 8 gauge DC distribution cable made in the USA. So it's fairly decent wire that's in here. We might give them a little bit of an upgrade just to be showy, but I don't know if it's going to help it do any more watts. Oh man, I had one of these when I was young, and in my tow trucking days, I had one of these that sat underneath the back seat of my beautiful International medium duty DT 466 6-speed Allison transmission, turned up to the moon tow truck. God, I love that truck. I wish I could get that truck back, but it's been sold many years ago, and it went way away from here. And I looked at buying it back one time, and the company that owned it didn't want to sell it. And then I looked at the condition the truck was in, and I went, I don't want to deal with this. Man, I used to keep that truck polished, like gleaming. The deck plate was all diamond, and I'd spend a whole Saturday on my weekend off. I'd take the truck home, I had this whole jumpsuit I put on and mask and everything. And I polished the deck on that tow truck, and the doors on that tow truck were all aluminum, right? The whole box was aluminum, and I go to open the door, and the inside of the door I had it polished like a mirror, so at night it would reflect light back at people. And Oh, I love that truck, but that was a good way to spend my youth, I think. Well, not the best way. I mean, I could have been with peaking cocaine and, you know, drinking Hennessy and stuff, flying around on private jets or whatnot. That would have been a little bit better, but I had a good time looking back at it. It was okay. And then I decided to start doing this. So I don't know. I don't know where I fell off the rails. I'm just saying. Good times. I love these little Dave made 2x4s. I love working on them. They're very simple. Dave and X-Force was very key in my world of being able, I mean, I looked inside of an X-Force one day and I looked at how it was put together and shit, man, I could build this. Here we are. Almost 20 years later, but here we are. All right, let's get the soldering iron out and let's do what we do. Of course, I'm going to flip the fan over, so instead of pulling air through, it's going to be blowing air in. Because we figured out blowing air in makes the amp stay cooler. Because it's easier to pressurize an enclosure than it is to pull a vacuum upon it. A lot less drag. Way more efficient. Just saying. If you think about it, if you drag all the air through the cabinet versus pushing all the air through it, the drag, that initial input drag, volumetrics and science and whatnot says it's easier to pressurize the cabinet. So, all right, let's change some relays and fix some knobs and change some power wires and let's do what we do. Just moving right along here. So, went ahead and blocked off the back of the vent. As we can see, there's now no direct air channel out. Flip the fan over. Struggled a little bit getting the bottom off because the hardware was so rusted. So we're going to give them all brand new screws on the bottom. We'll probably put 4 new rubber little feet on the bottom of this so it won't sit on the moist, whatever moist it's sitting on. It'll keep it from sliding around too. We're going to do a bigger power wire upgrade, obviously. I looked at our 2 connectors. Normally these are hogged out like a mofo. These are just fine. And as you can see with our blocking this off, we have not obstructed the airflow at all. In an ideal world, we'd cut all these out, but if you get a new modern Dave made, since Dave made's not really building anything, and don't even get me started down that rabbit hole, I wanted to point this out. This is actually one of the really good ones. I think this is a Dave made Moby box, but no, wait a minute. It's built by Danny, so it's actually built at Dave made. The new modern ones, the heatsink starts like right here at the edge of this pill pocket, and then they'll cut it and they'll stop right here at the end of the transistor. So they've figured out that they can trim almost a full inch of heatsink off the front and literally 3 or 4 inches off the back. So you end up with a hunk of heatsink that's about this big. This more heatsink, really crucial in how long the box can last. Right? I was always a fan of the long fin, short fin kind of heatsink stack, like what's in here. So we got a long fin, then a short fin, then a long fin, then a short fin, then a long fin, then a short. Okay. To me, I always thought, well, man, you can get way more air through it. It's looking at it now, knowing what I know now. I mean, there's a reason that I go with this stuff here from Tony over at Fat Boy. Oh, am I going to grab this and not have everything fall on the floor? Yes. More surface area, way more surface area. And the heatsink stock is actually longer by an inch than what's in here. More heatsink, mo better is how that works out, honestly. So, fun times. Just moving right along. I'm going to slap the bottom on this now, because how you actually block these off is you cut your phenolic to match your height from the back, and you slide this in from the bottom. I've done it both ways. I've used this thin stuff, and I made it so it's stitched from here to here and here and here. But really the best way is to cut like a piece of phenolic like this, slide it in from the bottom, only solder it in 2 spots on the outside edges, and then we've got a full block of air. When working on one of these Dave made boxes, we have to look how the whole board is held in. Is there's 3 screws down each side. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. These are notoriously famous for those solder stitches that do a, like a, I want to say like a weld, but it's a stitch. They'll stitch it here, and stitch it here. Over the years of the board flexing and the thing getting bounced around, these things are notorious for cracking, which I'm not seeing in this box, which means this box has had a good life. Yeah. Well, let's put the bottom on it, let's get some rubber feet on it, and let's get the relay changed out. And this thing's in great shape for as old as it is. 1998, man. Well, we're almost done here. So I went over and I put this in the vise and I kind of squeezed the Anderson clip fitting so I could get the wire a little bit loose, because it had been smashed like right here and kind of pinched. It looked like it had been hit with a hammer or something. That's not a very good electrical connection. That's really not. So good wire, but not the greatest electrical connection. So what we did is we just changed it. I just felt like it would be okay, and I didn't think JD would really give a shit what I did, so changed that around. We crimped one end, we crimped the far end, just oh so slightly, but then we backfilled the whole end with solder and then submerged soldered the eyelets on, so this will never come off. I went ahead and reused your plug instead of putting a brand new gray plug on it. That way, if you have a hookup for this, he said this has been sitting in his closet for some years, but just in case you do have a hookup for this, remember these are color coded, so the yellows will only work with the yellow, red will only work with the red, gray will only work with the gray. Unless you're like me, where I take a Dremel and I cut my gray ones so it'll fit all these plugs. We put real strain reliefs because the singular rubber grommet was on its last leg. It just happens with time, right? Went to pull the little 5 ampere apart and the whole relay just kind of fell apart. Of course, change the eyelets out, or change the hardware out on the bottom, clean the bottom of the amp up pretty good. Put some rubber feet on the bottom of it for you. On the inside, we did add some electrolytics. We brought the power wire in and soldered it in properly. We changed out our relay. I did add a pass-through capacitor to help make sure that the RF coming in the amp and passing through the antenna, if you had the amp off, you'd have a very flat SWR. We did the standard power wire upgrades to the transistors. Did another upgrade over here to the driver's section. We went ahead and we fixed the variable so it's not free floating or spinning in there anymore, which is just simple. Take the knob off, tighten a nut down, that kind of thing. Like I said, I put strain reliefs on the back. We moved the remote plug over. A lot of guys don't use the remote plug on these kind of small boxes, but moved it over, utilized the remote hole so these two could be right on top of each other. All normal stuff that I've been doing for years. I think that our guy here, DJ, is going to be really happy with how this thing performs. And of course, we put the 5-watt smoke generator in the back. This here, it beats this little 2-watter. These resistors don't do anything until there's an imbalance. Once there's an imbalance, I found that a lot of guys, the main thing that they know they have a problem is that they can smell the smoke, right? Just saying, that is a fact. Most guys that are running an amp like this, they don't really have a tendency to run watt meters because it's such low power. It's only maybe 800,000 watts, right? Well, it's got a little upgrades done to it. Everything checks out, visually checks out. So now the last step is to go ahead and let's hook it up and let's run it and let's make it make power. So give me just a second, let me get the workbench set up. So I know I've mentioned his name a couple times, and the reason that I can mention his name is because he literally scribed his numbers into the board. 1, 2, 3, 1988 or 1998. I want to show that on video because one time I said a box was built by him and he called me and he freaking, you'd know if I ever did an amp, da 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 da. Great, good for you, Dan. Just saying, it happened. So I thought I'd show all the documentation here on this little guy. All right, let me throw the lid on this thing here real fast. I did have to change the relay. The relay I put in here, my supplier sent me 110 volt relays. I didn't even look at it. I just put it in the amp. Come to find out, 110 volt relay doesn't work so hot in a 12 volt circuit. I mean, imagine that. Like, seriously, imagine that. We're going to put all new hardware in the top of this thing. Because the hardware that came out of this was a little Scotty. Scotty on the first order. Good to go, just like that. All right, let's hook it up, let's run it. So we'll go ahead, we'll shut the box off. And first we'll just show you radio drive here real quick. Is that rubbing on something? Sure is. Well, hold on a second. There's something wrong with this fan. That doesn't sound very healthy at all. All right, let's take the lid off. Rub, 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 rub. No rub. Let's see, how do I show this? Sloppy, tight. Sloppy, tight. I think this thing has spent so much time running the wrong way around that the little bushings that are inside the fan have just worn out. So when I flip the fan over to make it blow air in instead of, pull air through, that's what we ended up going and running into. So the other thing is I put a brand new fan in it, and now we've got high flow fan. Much more air. Better cooling. This thing turned really slow. Just did. So not or 0.14 of an amp 12 volt fan is what it is. Okay, let's run this thing. So what we've got going on here, 1000 watt slug in forward, 1000 in average, 5 watt slug in reverse. So our radio drive is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello, about 30 watts, 12 bird. Hello, about 445 bird. Hello, and over 1000 watts, around 1000 watts. So let's measure it this way. Let's take this 5 watt slug, we'll make it face forward, and we'll say we'll put 1.5 watts in it. Okay, 1.5 watts going forward. 20 watt dead key. Let's run this on up here. A 200 watt carrier. So now we're reading that bottom scale on this, you guys. Hello. 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 1, 2. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Yep, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello. Not a problem. Hello. 400 watt carrier. And that's with 2.2 watts worth of dead key, 400 watts. So it's working pretty good. All right, so that all being said, Let's go up here and let's look at the tell-all meter. So this is our Schwers, our reflected power from the radio, going through the amp, through all the bird meters and down to the dummy load. 111111111. That's good. Amp on. Hello, 1111111. Hello. So the 2.5 watt dead key producing 400 watts. 2.5 watts in or 2.25 watts going in makes this 400 watt dead key coming out. Of course, that's with our variable all the way open. So now let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when we run this dead key down a little bit. Let's grab the knob. And let's go back up here to the input reflect meter. Minimum, maximum, minimum. The reason I wanted to try that is because this knob, as you're moving it around, you can feel a little I was a little on the fence with this because it felt like there was a tiny little rough patch in it, but I think it's from the knob not moving an awful lot. And now that I'm moving the knob around and I'm not seeing any high schwur go on when we're moving it over and around and through its motions, I think we're okay. Well, gents, that's it. This is RO number 47. I spent 30 minutes yesterday looking for RO's number, because I was on RO number 44, 45, and 46. And then I called the guy that had those RO numbers and I didn't get a call back. So I don't think he sent those amps in on the RO numbers. So we're just going to skip ahead a couple. And if he did, we'll come back and we'll do them again later. But all day today and didn't hear anything back from him. So we'll see. We're just going to mosey on. But this is RO number 47 for the year 2025. And DJ, I appreciate you sending this up to me. All we had to do is put new power wire, new Anderson clip, new relay, a couple new caps, upgrade your power wire internally, change out your fan, and fix a bunch of other little small stuff. Clean up some of the hardware and block off the back vent so we get a little bit more efficient cooling. Flip the fan over the right direction, and Bob's your uncle. So on that note, gentlemen, thank you all for being here with me, hanging out, watching me do what I do. Super shout out to my friends down here in the Patreon group. These guys make the world go round over here. They do, they do. And a big thanks to all of you. If you get a chance, give me a thumbs up if you like what you've seen. One more in the done pile. On that note, gentlemen, I'll see you. Click, click.